All right, we will start our open session now. So we will begin with item 3.01, the land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the Franklin-McKinley School District and our schools are located in the Muwekma Ohlone Nation, the sovereign nation and the original people of the skies, land, and waters where we learn and work. The Muwekma Ohlone people are the stewards of these lands and of the teaching and learning that comes from and responds to the needs of the land and people who share it. May our daily lives and work, learning, teaching, and community engagement support the evolving vision of the Muwekma Ohlone for their community and these lands. And then item 3.02, flag salute. We have our doll color guard here, and you can take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please stand and remove your hats for the presentation of the colors? This thing has to be. Color guard advance. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Prepare to post the colors. Post the colors. Colored guard dismiss. Thank you. Please be seated. Hello, my name is Vianney Macias. I am in 6th grade. I go to Captain Jason M. Daw Elementary School, and I am here with my mom and cousin.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Nguyen. I am in 6th grade. I go to Captain Jason M. Dahl Elementary School, and I am here with my sister and my mom.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Nguyen. I'm in 3rd grade and I go to Captain Jason Dahl Elementary School, and I am here with my mom and dad.
Hi, my name is Tafif Chaudhary. I'm in 5th grade. I go to Captain Jason M. Dahl School and I'm here with my dad.
Let's give the doll color guard another round of applause, please. Thank you so much again, doll color guard, and to the parents who brought their students out here too. Thank you so much for taking the time. You're more than welcome to stay for the open session, or if you want to take the night off and take your kids back, you can do that too. So we will now proceed on to item 3.03 of our agenda, disapprove additions to agenda. Board members? Seeing none, we'll move to 3.04, approve, disapprove, order the agenda. Board members? And then we'll move on to item 3.05, report of action taken in closed session. Superintendent Cruz.
The board unanimously approved the January 11th, 2022 closed session minutes. There were no other actions to report.
Moving on to item number 4, oral communications. Members of the public may address the board on any issue within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board or agenda items. Members of the public may also address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of items. In accordance with Board Bylaw 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. No action can be taken on any agenda items at this time. Questions may be referred to the administration or put on a future agenda. 4.01, oral communications, 1.
We do have a request, a public comment submitted by email to be read into the record by Board President, FMEA President Scott Shulumson. So I'll read it at this time. Good evening, trustees. As you know, I am in support of the retirement incentive approved at the last meeting, but I did and do have concerns about the very short window of potential retirees to notify the district of their retirement. The February 4th deadline is just 10 days away, and the problem is everyone recommends meeting with CalSTRS before retirement to assess one's personal specific situation. But appointments with CalSTRS are usually not available on short notice. I've already heard from one teacher who will not take the CERB due to the inability to meet with CalSTRS in time. I don't know if the district is going to get enough applicants to make the CERB viable, but I think pushing back the February 4th deadline would be a smart step in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Juan, for reading that out. And that's it, right, Juan? So moving on to item number 5, information, discussion, and/or action items. 5.01, 2021-2022, update on the district's dual language immersion programs. That would be Amy and Taylor.
Good evening, Superintendent Cruz and board members. I have the honor and privilege tonight to present a board update to you on our dual language programs. I'm wearing my traditional aoyai today, so I believe in every opportunity in teaching everyone in the community, not just in our program, about our culture. And I hope to do the same when we have an opportunity to speak on the Spanish dual language programs. Okay, so I wanted to start today by just looking at our mantra: 2 languages, 1 child, and infinite possibilities. This is a mantra that we have kept dear to our hearts as we go out to promote our programs, truly taking 1 child, teaching them 2 languages, their native language and English, and opening infinite possibilities for the children in Franklin-McKinley. What is a dual language program? It is a research-based program in which students from 2 different language groups learn academic content, which is standards aligned to Common Core, while acquiring a second language at the same time. The goals and outcomes of our program is that students leave our program fully bilingual, meaning they can speak and reach high levels of proficiency in both their native language and also English. Our second goal of our program is for them to reach high academic achievement. Again, all Common Core standards aligned curriculum, high stakes tests that they're at or grade level compared to their native American English peers and overachieving. Okay, for the third goal, multiculturalism is developing positive self-identity as well as multicultural awareness of other students in their program. What does the research say? There are a ton of economic benefits, social benefits, and educational benefits. Economic benefits meaning being bilingual, fully biliterate, opens doors for careers and also educational opportunities for our students. Social benefits of being able to communicate within their own family as well as at school and having that interconnection with their peers. Some educational benefits long-term, you'll see in the next few slides, the cognitive benefits of being bilingual. So the brain research does show that students and adults who are bilingual have delayed signs of dementia. Bilingual people also have more efficiency focusing on tasks because they're able to flip from one task to another in both languages. They become really good at multitasking. Their cognitive skills are improved because their brains are always awake and ready to learn actively. They have denser gray matter, which helps to improve with memory. And another thing is decision making. They're very quick and thoughtful at how they make decisions. And so they are very efficient at making decisions that are really relevant. And the last but not least, because learning a language requires that you memorize all the rules of grammar and structure, they become language experts in both their native language as well as English. Thomas and Collier's research around bilingual programs does show that of all the bilingual programs, dual language programs, whether that be two-way or one-way programs, the students in the long term outperform their native English peers in reading. So a little update on our first dual immersion program is our Spanish, and we are in our second year of implementation at Meadows Elementary. We currently have 2 classes in kindergarten, 2 classes in first grade for a total of enrollment of 64 students. Our Spanish program is modeled after a 90-10 model where they start in kindergarten being instructed 90% of the day in Spanish and 10% in English. As they progress up the grades in first grade, they will move to an 80-20 model, 70-30. And then by the time they get to fourth grade, they will be a 50-50 model where half of their day will be in Spanish and half of the day will be in English. Our Vietnamese dual immersion program is at Windmill Springs Elementary, and we are in our 3rd year of implementation with 2 classes at kinder, first and second grade for a total enrollment of 123 students currently. The next few slides, the Vietnamese program is a 50-50 model, and that was based on our lack of resources in Vietnamese curriculum and not having really a high number of certified teachers being able to teach in the program, whereas the bilingual Spanish program, both teachers have a B-CLAD certification. Our Vietnamese program, we have an English multiple subject teacher, and then we have the Vietnamese B-CLAD teacher. They spend half of their day with the Vietnamese teacher and half the day with the English teacher, and then they switch half of the day. The 90-10 model has been proven to be much very successful, like for true bilingual and literacy, but the 50-50 model is just as effective, but we do have some challenges, which I will present in a little bit. For recruitment enrollment, some of our marketing strategies are successful and some we are still testing with the pandemic. It has been very challenging to get a lot of our PR out there, but we are working with Volaire, creating new and updated film and videos to promote our program. We have interest forms that we post at the schools, on our website. I share it out with all the preschool programs, and we do present to them as well. For the commitment part, we do ask that parents attend an informational meeting so that they commit to the program for its longevity and reach the full benefits of the program. I am in charge of helping to balance the classes to make sure that we match the language composition, which is proven to be an effective program. And then our parents, before starting school, we have them go through an orientation meeting with our teachers so they understand what the curriculum is that's being taught and how we're balancing all the standards across the languages. So here's our Spanish dual immersion program. Currently, we have 2 kinder and 2 first, and you can see that for a full class, it would be 24. We launched during the pandemic, which was very challenging to get out there, reaching out to families, enrolling them. But you'll see the positive of that is the smaller class sizes has allowed our teachers to completely engage with our students. And it actually is really nice to be in a smaller class size. I've been there and I really do love being there with them. The greatest part about the Spanish program is that we are able to balance language composition so that you'll see the number of English learners is pretty balanced with English proficient students. So typically in the first kindergarten class there, you'll see 8 English learners, and then the other 6 students in the class are English proficient. So that is a great language composition. Students will learn from each other. They have models from both of the native languages, native English and native to Spanish. And then if you go down the grades, you will also see it's pretty balanced, 7 and 8, 9 and 9, and 9 and 8. This is what you will want to see in a program that is effective in terms of the language composition. Okay. For the Vietnamese program, you'll see that the enrollment numbers are much higher. We started out really strong with our first cohort, and which are now second graders, but some have moved, of course, due to not being able to stay in the area. And then some of the families, COVID was the pandemic, doing distance learning was really challenging for their children to learn. So some parents are like, we're gonna hang in there, we're gonna try, but we have lost a few students because the parents have been struggling to support them at home when we were teaching through distance learning. But our numbers were okay last year, up to 20 and 23, and then this year we are lower enrollment, not being able to go out and recruit as we do in previous years. But for the Vietnamese program, a challenge that we have is that you will see a high number of English learners and a lower number of English proficient learners. So if we continue in this way, and the families that really want the program are actually Vietnamese speaking families that want to preserve the language and culture for their children, it may turn from a two-way program to a one-way, which is still successful, but it's not what we had intended when we launched our program. So when I go out and with the team to recruit, we're really, really working hard to reach those English proficient families to show them that Vietnamese is also a language that their children can learn, and it has the full benefits long-term. Staffing and partnerships and support, we contract with ATDLE for our Spanish teachers and with NORCAL, National Research for Research Center for Asian Languages for our Vietnamese teachers. And what they do is they help us with our bilingual authorized teachers. Paraeducators also get some professional development. We have planning days and curriculum development with our teachers. Ed Services provides staff check-ins. I do monthly check-ins with both of our teams and with our principals. And then we support them with curriculum implementation. We provide opportunities, of course, for professional development, coaching, and technical assistance. So these partnerships have been very strong. Teachers have been very happy with these partnerships. So we hope to continue these partnerships in next year. Some program strengths that we have is that there is evidence of rigor in both languages. We have structured planning and support for our teachers. Teachers come feeling prepared. They have the right credentialing to be teaching in our classrooms and supporting our students. We have district staff that are both bilingual to support the program. And then, of course, principals are able to have school acceptance because it is a program within their campus. And there's lots of mixed messages and feelings about having a program on your campus. So the principals are doing a wonderful job having the programs being received on their campuses. And then, of course, there's a lot of parent interest still. But what we still need to do is still continue to educate and outreach and share, like just being more visible in our community, all the wonderful things that our programs are bringing for our students. Some challenges that we have is that the Vietnamese curriculum is very, that we don't have a lot. We lack a lot of resources. Our design team that we started with is very adamant politically not to have curriculum that is published in Vietnam. So we have been made very clear that any curriculum that we use would be vetted and to make sure that they are okay with the curriculum that we're using in our program. So we're still being challenged because it does limit some of our resources. We are having also challenges with hiring highly qualified bilingual authorized teachers. Dual immersion is a program setting that is more new to bilingual education. So I got my BCLAD 20 something years ago and never used it, right? So I have a ton of people who had bilingual credentials back then, but they have never been in a school educational setting. So it's a matter of outreaching to them, having them renew their credentialing, and hopefully showing them that this is a worthwhile teaching experience for them. Distance learning, limited full day experience for our students, having the time to practice with their peers. So that has been a challenge. And distance learning has also impacted our enrollment numbers. Not being able to offer these tours, which make our programs much more visible. We were able to have monthly tours to invite families into our classrooms and visit our programs. So that has been a challenge with the pandemic, not being able to have parents actually see what they're enrolling their children into. So what we've been doing is hosting parent meetings where the teachers record the students and share activities that they're doing in their classrooms to build bilingualism and biliteracy and multiculturalism in their classrooms. Okay, and the last but not least, we are having the challenge of balancing the language composition in our Vietnamese program. It is highly high, very high numbers of Vietnamese speaking families that want this program. And it not so much as a challenge, but if we want to keep true to our model, then we do need to purposely go out and outreach for families who are English proficient to help us balance that program. So this last slide is our vision for the future, is that Franklin-McKinley is offering this pathway for students to become bilingual and biliterate, so they can earn their seal of biliteracy when they leave high school on their diploma, and that we are preparing our global learners leaving us bilingual, biliterate, and multicultural before we send them off. This last picture is just to say thank you to all of you for inviting me here today. And I wanted to showcase Ruby, Emerson, and I forgot what his name is, Ben, I believe. Ruby is comes from a Spanish speaking household in our Vietnamese dual language program. And she's still with us in 2nd grade. Emerson comes from a Vietnamese ethnic speaking background, but she does not speak Vietnamese. So her parents enrolled her in the program so that they can preserve that language. And Ben comes from a Vietnamese proficient family. So this picture right here is our program and what we want to model our program after, having this mixture of students in the classroom together. And like I said, after each presentation, or every time I come and outfeast with you all, I want to share with you the Ao Yai. The Ao Yai in the southern region is pronounced as Ao Yai. If you come from northern region, it actually is pronounced Ao Zai. And what it literally means is long dress. And it is actually a symbol of national pride. And when you go out into the community and see women wearing Ao Yai, you'll see more women than men. The colors, you'll see younger women wearing lighter pastel colors who are single and not married. Older women who are married will wear bolder, much more deeper colors. So just wanted to leave you with that. So the next time you see somebody wearing an Ao Yai, you're like, hey, that's something that Taylor taught me. Thank you. I'm open to any questions that you have.
Thank you so much, Taylor. And I love your Ao Yai.
Thank you.
Wish I wore mine. Board members, do we have any questions or comments? We'll start with Rudy.
Thank you, Taylor. That was a very nice presentation. I want to start at the end and then go back a little bit. Did you mentioned one of the students' name is Ruby? She's from a Hispanic household?
Yes.
And she's in the Vietnamese?
Yes.
So does that mean she's going to be trilingual?
Yes, she is. And her mom wants her to learn probably French in high school. So she will be quadrilingual.
Wow, that is amazing. And you know, the young age is when the student should learn more languages. And I completely agree with that. It was different when I was in school. They only wanted one language.
Yes.
And we got beaten for it. So it was different back then. So I'd like to go back to the enrollment and get some clarification on some things. And I guess we could start with the Spanish dual immersion.
Yes.
And I think that's on slide 12 or something.
I have it in front of me.
Okay, but we don't need to look at the numbers or anything, but what I had questions on was, is there a waiting list for this, or are we full? Is there a waiting list for it? Right
now, we are just starting our recruitment because enrollment is now open for the incoming year, but we are enrolling year round. And currently right now, there's not a waiting list. There was a waiting list for Vietnamese, but more at the TK age group. So what we did was we enrolled them in TK, giving them the highest priority into kindergarten.
Okay, so then, okay. A little clarification on initial fluent, that means they were initially fluent in,
English. So,
English.
so they basically a longer, just to make a long story short, when the parent enrolled the student, they identified a second language in the household. So the student was tested on the LPAC assessment and deemed fluent in English.
got it.
So they become our English proficient students.
Okay, and then moving on to the Vietnamese dual immersion program, it makes a little more sense.
Mhm.
When it says reclassified fluent, does that mean reclassified fluent in English or Vietnamese?
Yes, in English.
Oh, in English,
Yes.
okay.
So the students, as you can see, as they move up their grades, they are fluent in English and are able to reclassify out of being an English learner status.
Okay,
So we're reaching like our goals, they're actually reaching the goals earlier than what, to learn a language proficiently, it's 5 to 7 years. So these students in the second grade and the first grade that are showing, they're demonstrating at grade level standards in English.
okay, and then for both programs, when it says English learner, does that mean they did not know English at all?
The assessment itself just says that they're not proficient in English, so they're still learning English.
They might know a little bit.
They may know
but
some,
Their
but
primary
I want to
language,
say that not a majority, I want to say 50% are truly English learners. They're not newcomers, but they do have a native language in the home. So the parents did speak the native language up through kindergarten.
and the native language could be either Vietnamese, Spanish, or even,
Spanish.
could it be another
Or
language?
another language, yes. Mhm.
Wow, that's interesting. And then my last question is, in both programs, how diverse are they? Do we keep demographics on them? Are they like the Vietnamese? Is it 90% Vietnamese
So
culture?
right now, I always, when I have tours and I do, PR out there, just like Emerson, she looks Vietnamese, right? She has all the appearance and race and profile of being Vietnamese, but she didn't speak Vietnamese at all coming
Right.
into our program. So then it's more important for me not to see what the demographic group looks like. It actually matters what they look on paper. That language composition is very important because what Emerson brings to this program is her English knowledge, and she's learning from her Vietnamese peer, the Vietnamese language.
Okay, and a little add-on to that.
Yes.
Are all of these students, were they born in the US or are any
No.
immigrant from the
Um,
Vietnam or
I-
Mexico?
I would probably have to bring that data for you
Okay.
because when they enroll, we don't have all that data in front of us. It's really just registration information. I would have to look at when they entered the US and if they were native
Okay.
born or not.
And not Vietnam or Mexico, it could be any other country.
Correct.
Got it.
Mhm.
Just to be clear on that.
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. You did a good job.
Oh,
Appreciate
And
it.
just to, one of the advantages of having dual languages and at least in these two languages is in some cases, it does allow for greater support for a newcomer.
Mhm.
Especially if they're, say, a kindergartner and, they're going into a 90-10. And so they're going to be supported from their primary language as they're also learning the English. So in a lot of cases, it is one of those ways that we can support newcomers as well.
Okay, and I did have one other question. When you meant on the challenges and opportunities, the first bullet point, you said curriculum for Vietnamese dual language immersion program.
Yes.
You mentioned something that there's a challenge because of what? I couldn't quite.
Not being able to purchase curriculum that's being used in Vietnam. So like even books that you think are not politically, like have connotations, like a book, color book, like a color book, a shape book, like which would help us with building up our resources and specific curriculum around math or social studies or science. The community is very strong.
Is it because Vietnam is a communist country now and it might be biased towards?
I would say yes.
Okay, that makes
Yes.
a lot of sense. And we don't want to have propaganda in there.
Absolutely.
Because our
So we do
parents-
have a team that will fully vet like what we bring into our program so that we don't have those issues. Because I'm born here in Arkansas after the fall of Saigon. So
Where's
I'm
your
not as
accent?
proficient looking at curriculum and really understanding
Yeah.
all of that. So it does
Uh-huh.
help me to lean into my community partners to make sure that we're doing what's right for our community.
Okay, and how many dual Vietnamese programs are there in the US right now?
In the US right now, I want to say just a handful. I said less
Two or
than
three?
10.
Oh,
In California itself, we are the third. Alum Rock followed after us, so there's 4 in California.
got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
More, board members, any more questions, comments?
I do.
Ramona?
Thank you, Taylor. I thoroughly enjoyed that presentation. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, since we have two, we're fortunate to have two language programs. Is there any type of collaboration or partnerships that happens just in terms of like the structures of the programs themselves? Like I'm thinking like between the two language.
So for me right now, the challenge has been the pandemic. So a lot of the things and opportunities that we have are on Zoom, which is challenging. Right now, I am new to overseeing the Spanish program. So I am still meeting with teachers in their own group. So I meet monthly with the Spanish dual teachers and I meet monthly with the Vietnamese. Any professional development that is non-language specific, so dual immersion pedagogy, all teachers are invited to that. And I actually participate along with them to build up my own repertoire. And then we collaborate in terms of sharing best practices, but we're not there yet. That is a goal of mine, to be able to have more collaboration between the teachers themselves, because best practice is best practice, right? Like any research-based strategies that a Spanish dual teacher is using to engage students in better language and literacy, as a Vietnamese teacher can absolutely gain and benefit from that. But we're just not there yet. Each program has its own individual needs too. The Spanish program has a curriculum, has a coach that comes every month to support them. So they're being supported. I feel very confident in our ATDLE partners. And then we do check-ins with ADTLE as well. For the Vietnamese program, Dr. Natalie Tran comes in the summer and does intensive time with them, like maybe 6 to 8 days. But then the contract is like she's building out their scope and sequence, looking at curriculum and resources, and then we don't see her again until next summer. So the teachers are left with who is supporting me throughout the year. So then I feel like I'm stepping into that role sometimes, just being a visible person to say, I can't coach you because I also have a lot of other responsibilities that I'm juggling, but I'm here for you. What support do you need? And just be that person for them. So again, it's been hard to kind of bring these two teams together because I'm still getting to know the Spanish team. I know the Vietnamese team much more because we launched together 3 years ago. So that's an era of growth for me. But the two principals, I've been able to meet with them also monthly, sharing ideas and best practices between our two programs.
And what about like in terms of any collaboration with, I don't know if this is like taboo, but with like other programs? Even?
Oh, so for other programs, absolutely. So, but just because the pandemic, we're not able to go visit other programs
But
right
it's
now.
something you're open
But
to.
we've been able to take our Vietnamese team to Seattle, Oregon to visit their campuses. And we hope to do that in the near future too. So they're looking forward to.
That's great.
And we also are part of a consortium with the Vietnamese, all of the, I think there's 8 to 10 of us, and we're building out a K2 early literacy curriculum. So, and our teachers are partners in that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ramona. And as far as what I have is mostly comments, and I really always fell in love with the idea of a dual immersion program for Vietnamese English, and I'm glad we went with that route first. And coming from an immigrant family, I was raised with my native language from 0 to 5 years old. And when I hit kindergarten, I didn't know a word of English. Even when my mom took me back to Vietnam, I impressed my relatives by saying yes, no, but that's the extent of what I can say. And then I realized, like, as I grew up, all that really went away super quick because all my peers spoke English and they taught me English. And that's just my means of communication. Had this been an option for me back then, I probably would have retained my my Vietnamese literacy is much more. Right now, I'm just forcing myself because, you know, like I have to communicate with parents, I have to communicate with my parents and such. But this is something that I foresee that would greatly benefit not just the Vietnamese kids in our district, but anyone in terms of culture, diversity, and understanding Vietnam as well. So just seeing that picture by itself, it gives me such like goosebumps. It's just like, wow, this child right here has the potential of learning 4 different languages at such an early age. And for them to share that with each other is just beyond amazing. So thank you for all you do, Taylor. Great. That's a great presentation, and I'm looking forward to hearing more news. And do let us know if you need support in any kind, because I do know like you're seems like you have a lot on your plate with the Spanish dual immersion also coming to life as well, right? So we're here anytime you need it. So
Thank
you
you.
again.
And we will be celebrating Lunar New Year next week, a week from today. The Windmill students will be doing a performance, not publicly. I mean, the parents, I think, are invited to watch from off campus from 8:30 to 9:30 this Friday. So if any of you are available, we would love for you to join us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Okay, so that was a presentation for informational purposes only. So we'll move on to item 5.02, student wellness and support services presentation. Jennifer Klassen.
I did upload the updated presentation on the board docs if you are looking for it too.
Thank you. Ready? Good evening, Board President. Good evening, board members, Superintendent Cruz. Thank you for having me tonight presenting on our Student Wellness and Support Services Department. I'm going to take you through a little bit about what we've been up to in our department at the school sites with our social workers and SLS coordinators and our partners. So let's get started. Do this. We always start with our beliefs. And we love to look at the different ways that Franklin-McKinley supports students and the whole child. And especially number 5, right? We believe that students flourish in a nurturing, safe, and challenging environment. And so we always want to circle back to our beliefs and what drives us to continue to create environments where students can learn and thrive. I did want to point out tonight, I do have Brenda on the Zoom. So Brenda's my administrator of wellness. And I don't know, Brenda, are you there?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Brenda Salcedo, and I'm an administrator in the Student Wellness and Support Services Department. Nice to be here with you all.
The era of Zoom. So I invited Brenda tonight, and I did not introduce myself, but Jennifer Klassen, Director of Early and Elementary Education. I invited Brenda tonight because Brenda is my co-partner in crime and trying to bring services and supports to students in our district. And so she has very much an influence in how our department is ran. And so she's going to comment on a few of our slides tonight. And so I'm very thankful and welcome Brenda to tonight's presentation. Thank you for being here. So this is a check-in, and the images are not moving as they were earlier. Samara, I don't think we can get them to move. Nope, can't. But either way, we do check-ins with our kiddos, with our staff. And it came before Zoom in the era pre-pandemic. We would always do check-ins, but they were sometimes, on a card or maybe a feelings chart. And in this era, we know that there are memes for everything. And there are check-ins, right, that you can find for everything that's happening nowadays. And so we always want to make sure that we include a wellness check-in when we're doing a presentation in the classroom, or maybe we're talking to staff. And we always want to kind of see how we're feeling. And intentionally, though, it's not just how are you feeling, right? And if you're sad, okay, well, let's keep going. It's always about checking in, but also being mindful if a student or staff does report that maybe they're feeling like the chimpanzee, I think, right? Or they're feeling like they're going to fall over, that we always want to check in and be mindful of how we follow up with that staff or student. So it's not just a one and done. We also are mindful that kids and students and staff can pass. So I thought it'd be fun. Can you all see it on yours? Yeah, to do a general check-in tonight, if you would oblige. and with me. And sort of, I will model it. And this is how our social workers kind of operate when we start something, that we check in and kind of say how you're feeling today or right now in this moment. If you wanted to check a number, and you can just call out your number. If there's something that maybe I feel I need to check in with you afterwards, I will do so. If you present with a number that might be kind of something that I'm concerned about. So I will check in right now and I'll start and model. I am number 14, which is the cat with the headphones. Right. So I feel kind of, I'm happy that I'm here. I'm happy I get to share with you, and I love cats too, but that's kind of me, how I'm feeling. So I will pick on somebody, Superintendent Cruz, and then I'll allow you to pick on someone else as we go.
I am number 2, and if you can't see that, that's an L that just kind of keeps turning, and the reason is because we're constantly changing our decision tree, and it seems like we're always sort of, having our heads turned around constantly. I'll turn it over to our board president.
Number 8, that little bunny
Yes.
falling over a little bit. Been up since 6. I mean,
Got it.
it's been a tough day, but no, other than that, it's just my general feeling right now.
Thank you.
I'll turn over to Rudy, our board vice president.
Hey, I'm number 11, just chilling. I guess it's just chilling a frog.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, really nothing to,
Yeah.
just enjoying everybody here.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll turn it over to Maimona.
I can't see the animated version, so hopefully this is a disclaimer. Okay, I think that one still applies. Oh, I would say between the 5 and 6, the hippo and the
dog.
But, hanging in there.
Yeah, thank you. Who'd you like to choose? I'll pick on Jason. That's okay. Yeah, everyone takes a turn. Okay. $15, yes, the endless list of things to do. And we'll keep going, Annette. 15. How about Amy? Okay, number 8 is the bunny. Yep, I hear you. Brenda, how about you?
I'm also a cat lady, so I'm going to go with number 9.
Thank you.
Emmanuel.
And Manny and Mr. Martinez.
I was also going to say 15, but I guess to be different, I'll say number 3. Simply because wearing the mask, it feels like that beak thing that's going on with the screen.
That is true. Thank you. Thank you all for participating. It's definitely something that we have been inspired to do more of as we create a culture of wellness, right, and student and staff support. So thank you all for checking in. So as we talk about our school social workers, I always like to ground us in our model of school social work. This comes from the School Social Worker Association of America. And we ground ourselves in ensuring that we are practicing both legally and ethically, but also adhering to a model that drives our work of continuous improvement, of equity and access, and a continuum of services within the MTSS framework. So always want to ground ourselves in a model. This is really exciting. We have grown. When I started here in 2016, we had 1 school social worker, 1 SLS coordinator. And here we are in 2022. We have 18 school social workers, and we have 2.5 SLS coordinators, schooling services coordinators, and we have an endless list of community partners who are our backbone to be able to do what we do. And so as you can see, we are grateful to have the supports at the site. We've grown tremendously. And tonight we'll give you a little bit of an overview of how we function on campus. You'll see there as well, we have an intern program that is actually, I think, one of the most important elements to our program, because without an intern program, we wouldn't be here. I went through one, Brenda went through one, and so you don't become a school social worker unless you go through an intern program. So we are heavily invested in partnering with state and also Eastside Union High School District, which allows us to have their interns for part of the year as well. And there's our intern program. This is one of our interns at Ramblewood, and she's reading to a class. Our interns are heavily invested in supporting the students and staff. They are trained by us, they are supported by us, and they push into classrooms and are part of the school culture, the school community. And so we're really excited and grateful to have this partnership, and also, we look at our interns as who's potentially the next school social worker for Franklin-McKinley, because we want to train the best and we hire the best. And so we're really happy that they have chosen to come intern with us. And we really rely heavily on a very solid program. And so we're really grateful for that. Some of the things we've been doing, the pandemic has really forced us, right, to adjust and readjust how we operate on the campus. And so this slide is really unique in several ways. It shows you a little bit of how we partner with admin. The admin and the school social work are a team, and they really operate in conjunction with each other. And this is a Franklin slide. And recently, Ms. Ravo, the principal, put together a presentation, I don't know if anyone saw it, but it was on school rules and school responsibilities as we recalibrate and come back in 2022. She put together a slide and she partners with her school social worker. And one of the reasons this is kind of unique as well is because, we unfortunately lost Hillary Lopez, our school social worker at Franklin, due to a tragic car accident. And so Teresa Perez is our interim school social worker from Uplift, and she's full-time, and she stepped in and she did this presentation, and she was really having a hard time, right, walking into this role, right, with Franklin and becoming this school social worker. And she did this presentation, and I told her, I said, this is the highlight of my day, right? The fact that you are still working with kids, still bringing this to the community, trying to help kids feel successful in an era where you have to wear masks and you have to be mindful of your spacing and, everything that's happening. And so to really just kind of still be present with students and be mindful about where they are and continuously trying to educate and help them stay safe. Right. And so one of the things that's on there, the bullet points, is beyond this slide, is building capacity for the implementation of RJ and social emotional learning. And so as we partner with principals, we really are building capacity at the site to ensure that we are a thought partner, we are a presenter, we are someone that is bringing in resources and supports in order to continue to move the school culture forward. We focus on MTSS, and we are still focusing on MTSS as we started our journey a few years ago with the California SUMS initiative. And so this slide is really a little bit about how the school social work and SWIS fits into the MTSS framework and continuum of care. The one area I want to pull out is our district collab, which is tier 3. As you can see, we have tier 1, which is all what we do for all kids, what we do for some kids, and then what we do for a few kids. And we started this year a district collab. Ms. Black, our assistant superintendent, facilitates our district collab. We started this in efforts to provide more transparency, more communication, and really try to solidify relationships between departments. We have ed services, special ed, and SWIS. And we knew that they were operating in a silo for many parts, right, of the work. And in order to kind of bring people together to really build more communication, more trust and relationships, which is what we do, we are intentional about meeting weekly as this district collab, and with the intention of looking at students that are needing tier 3 services, right? Students that may have exhausted everything, or school sites say, we don't know what to do, but we really want to help support this student, but we need more thought partners, right? We need more resources. And so the district collab is where we really look at students and what has happened at the school site, what resources, supports have been given, what's been tried, and then what we can do to step in and help support. So we come together weekly, we meet, we collaborate, we keep notes, we document, we reach out to the site with our partners. And it's really been, I think, a fruitful conversation. It's also been some growing pains as we learn how to work together, right, in a different way. But I think it's really something to highlight of how we're trying at the district level, right, with the support of Ms. Black, to really come together, break down silos, and serve the whole child. Some of our activities this year and presentations, I think I do this every year, but it's really kind of one of the most fun pieces of the presentation. We continuously do presentations in class, both with staff and with students. You'll see some student wellness presentations up there, and then we have our staff presentations that our school social workers do, such as restorative practices. Why are wellness centers important to be in schools? So I'm going to play a short audio clip. And this is an audio clip of Lerone, the Wellness Center, with 4th graders. And our school social worker did an interview with them and asked them a few questions about wellness centers. And so I'm going to play it. I think I can do it. Sammer. You can do it.
I'm not calling her, I promise. Okay, so we just heard an interesting chapter where the argument was, do wellness centers belong in schools or not? And I'm curious what you guys think. And so I'm gonna start with one voice at a time. I'm gonna start with Andrea. Do you think wellness centers belong in school and why?
Yes, because you can talk to them when something's wrong.
Yeah, when something's wrong. Cool. Jackie, what do you think?
I just wanted to ask about the tissue.
Say it loud.
I just wanted to ask my tissue.
Oh, a tissue. Yeah, go ahead and grab one from the back. They're over by the hand sanitizer. Tina, what do you think?
I think that
Oh, Tina's turn.
center belongs in school because you can relax.
You can relax there. You know what? Fist bump for using a full sentence. That was awesome. Kayla, what do you think?
I think wellness centers belong in schools because they can help you relieve stress and with a lot of bad thoughts.
I think that's awesome as an answer. What do you think?
I think that wellness center belongs to school because you need some fun also.
Yeah, you gotta have some fun in between all those academics. What do you think, Kelly?
I think wellness centers belong in school because you can make new friends there.
Yeah, you can make new friends. What do you think?
You can color there.
You can color there. It's nice to be able to color there. I totally have color there.
The people don't care about your feelings.
It's really nice to have more people at school who care about your feelings. Well, we care about your feelings too. What do you think? Okay, could you maybe? Yeah, it's like a big mess. Let's not do that.
I think wellness centers should be in school because you could play with the toys that Miss Lindsay bought and
Javon's turn.
you could make what?
Toys that they bought and
Oh no.
oh, that's okay. Hey, if you come to you, think of it. Hey, that's why we gotta make sure we don't interrupt people because sometimes they lose their train of thought. That's not super nice to them. Okay, we want to open it for you. Yeah, bring me the Kleenex box. I'll open it for you. Yeah, Gabby, what do you think wellness centers should be in school?
I think wellness centers should be belongs to classroom because they're trying to make you have a lot of fun and not trying to be like not getting like you're stressed, not like mad or nothing.
Yeah, that's it.
That was a short little clip. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing some of our student voices. We take it very personal, right? Our wellness centers, it is our bread and butter, right, of what we enjoy doing every single day. If you're out at any of our campuses, we are building them, we are modernizing them, we are reconstructing them to meet the needs of the site culture. Santee, for example, we are fortunate to have a partnership with the Santa Clara County Office of Education, where they went for a grant. And so we are one of the schools that's a recipient of the Wellness Center grant. And so we have a wellness liaison and a therapist that are given to us by the County Office of Education at both Lerone and Santee, which allowed us to expand our centers. So we have a Zen Den and a wellness center at both of these schools, and we can look at them as models for the rest of the district. But we also took the opportunity to reconstruct one of the buildings that was at Santee, modernize it, create office space, create group space, and we're looking at ensuring that we do this throughout the whole district to bring this model, right, of wellness for both staff and students, and eventually families when they come back to campus. But right now we serve the whole child and the whole family and staff. This is some pictures of our wellness centers around the district. Calming corners, calming tents. But really students are just able to go in there anytime during the day with a pass, obviously with accountability, and really access either the Zen Den for self-regulation, for self-awareness, mindfulness, yoga practices, and also be able to receive individual group counseling, crisis intervention, or just any of the materials we have in the Wellness Center available to students. Some programs and supports. I'm going to highlight just a couple on here. I believe I talked last time about Second Step. We adopted our social emotional curriculum for the entire district. Every classroom, every teacher has access to the digital version of Second Step to be able to teach explicit social emotional learning and also integrated social emotional learning throughout the day. So time to really teach the skills to students so they understand what SEL is, but then also integrate social emotional learning throughout the academic day. Say Something is part of the Sandy Hook Promise. If you've heard of Say Something, it is an anonymous app where students can log in and report anything that may be unsafe on campus or something that is personally impacting them. And they can report it through this app, and it goes to either the principal or leadership team on site or at the district level, identified district level leaders. And this is something we're rolling out this month and will impact our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students at this time right now. And Sources of Strength is the other one. It is a peer leadership program that brings together 7th and 8th graders at our middle school campuses and teaches them the skills that they need to be able to understand social emotional learning, but also depression, anxiety, things that will impact your mental health. And Sources of Strength is really a suicide prevention program. And it really comes from the organic notion of instilling in our kids, right, the necessary skills that they need to be able to identify in themselves when they're struggling or in their peers. And so it's peer-led, and we're really excited to be able to roll this out this year and fully implement it next year. Our Foster and McKinney-Vento youth programs, we partner closely with the county to be able to keep up with the latest policy and practices, legal and ethical obligations. I am still the Foster Youth McKinney-Vento liaison for the district. Some of the things we've been doing this year, as you know, we have our rental assistance program that we've been connecting families to, PPE still, food resources, connection with the isolation and quarantine program, and continuously trying to do home visits to reach our families, find our families, ensure that they have access to the supports and services that are available both in our district and within the school community. Last time when I was here, I think it was March, I did a presentation on School Social Work Awareness Month, and I offered some of the different activities, resources, programs that we were either thinking about doing or in the process of doing. And so what I wanted to do is bring back an update on the things that I reported back in March. There's a lot of bullet points there. Some of the ones that I wanted to kind of pull out around our systems, technology, and documentation. We are embarking on a training with Illuminate, which is with EduClimber. I think Taylor's gone. With Taylor's help, we are moving forward with training our school social work team and some other leaders throughout the district in the EduClimber system. And what this will do is work with our MTSS framework. And so we're able to tag students in EduClimber. EduClimber talks to Infinite Campus. All of our kids are within EduClimber, which is a part of Illuminate. We're able to tag kids. Let's say we put 5 kids in a social skills group. We're able to tag them, put them in a group. We're able to track and monitor attendance, behavior, and outcomes, both pre and post. And so when we think about how do you show outcomes for what you're doing, EduClimber will give us more tools and resources available to be able to monitor and track and say these 5 kids went through this program and here's kind of pre and post. And so it'll just allow us more data, but also more actionable data so we can make better decisions, improve resources, adjust, and reflect on the programs and practices we have currently in place. So that's really exciting. We're starting that training in spring, as well as our Welligent electronic health record system for our school social workers and Care Solace, which Brenda is going to talk a little bit about in a minute. And this is more examples of what I had talked about last time and kind of an update on where we are. One of the things we did with expanding and leveraging our partnerships, Uplift has partnered with us this year to provide 4 clinicians to our school sites. 3 of them are at school sites, and we have the 1 district Uplift clinician who's supporting us with crisis and overall wellness support across the district. So we're really excited that Uplift has been able to partner with us this year. Spotlight on where we're going. We talked about this as a team of the challenges that this year presented, right? And the challenges of actually trying to roll out programs and services on top of what the schools are currently dealing with, right? Which is trying to stay safe, trying to stay healthy, trying to do everything that they're doing in response to COVID. And so we know that we can't stop, right? There are kids that are coming to school. We still have a desire to make sure that we move forward. And so part of that is looking at what we put in place this year, what we were able to do in a meaningful way, and then what we want to deepen and strengthen next year. So really focusing on rolling out some trainings this year, getting some work going on, being mindful of everything that's on our plates at our school sites. So that's sort of where we are, strengthening and deepening the work. We don't want to lose sight of attendance. It may seem strange to think about, right, focusing on attendance and chronic absenteeism, but it really still is in the forefront of our work, because we have students that are coming to school. We have students that are on ISP. We have students we haven't seen in almost 3 years by August, right? We have students that are truant still. And so we want to keep attendance and chronic absenteeism in the forefront of our mind, because it really does guide the interventions and the work that we do. So we do have families out there that are struggling right now and are not coming to school. So we're keeping this at the forefront of our mind and not losing sight of how attendance can impact, right, our programs and practices moving forward. And then strategies and approaches to bring attention to social justice and equity centered practices. We believe strongly in the work that DEEB is doing, and we want to be able to incorporate the work that is happening and thread that through our student wellness and support services model. And early learning, our littlest ones, have had probably one of the greatest impacts of this time. And so our partner with Packard is allowing us to focus intentionally on 0 to 5. And we have many things that we're thinking about doing next year, but one of them is making sure that we are screening all of our TCARES coming in through the ages and stages, because it's, again, they're some of the hardest hit, right, populations of kiddos that haven't had access to normal daycare, socialization, or other. They are thriving in different ways. And so we want to make sure we capture what their strengths are and also capture what challenges may be coming, so we can provide early intervention in the earliest grades. Some data for you. And I'm going to turn this one over to Brenda to talk a little bit about our 5th grade My Health First screening.
Hello. So this is our 2nd year as part of this partnership with the Healthier Kids Foundation. And this year we were able to screen the students in person versus on Zoom, which we did last year. We were able to screen a total of 566 students this year, with the majority of them being rated a score of a 1 or a 2, which meaning they weren't any identified needs or immediate needs. And about 2% of our students were rated a 3-star, which required immediate intervention by one of our social workers. So the screenings all were handled by a physician, a school social worker, and a Healthier Kid Foundation employee. We started these screenings in mid-October and completed them in November. We were able to screen about 82% of all 5th graders. And of the 293 families that needed some kind of follow-up, we are working closely with our partners to ensure that they're connected with the services that they need.
Thank you. This is some of our data from our SLS referrals. Our SLS coordinators work closely with the behavioral health, county behavioral health, and we submit data on a quarterly basis. And when we submit it, this is exactly what it looks like. And so you can see one of the biggest categories is behavioral and mental health. And so behavioral health services, whether it's anxiety, depression, and it's manifesting through behavior, because we know behavior is a form of communication. So when we see behavior, we have to understand what the underlying cause is. And so a lot of the referrals that have been coming through are noticing and picking up signs and symptoms of students who may be in distress. The organizations that we refer to, again, this is directly from our SLS data that we send to the county behavioral health. You can see that the biggest one is FMSD, and that really is our school social workers, our schooling services coordinators, any school-based support. Could be a check-in, it could be long-term counseling, short-term group, anything like that. We are the ones that take most of the referrals, but our partners, you can see there, Catholic Charities and Uplift Family Services are strong partners in our referrals. By grade level, our 8th graders, they struggled a lot. You know, they were 6th graders when they left and they came onto campus, some of them never having set foot on that campus, right, if they were in a traditional middle school. So we absolutely wanted to support our incoming 8th graders. And so we've been providing additional support as needed for all of our middle schools, and then our 5th graders as well. By gender, so we have the traditional referrals by gender, male and female. We also capture our referrals for our students that identify LGBTQ. We did not have those reported on our referrals at this time, but we do capture that data as well. Number of contacts, we capture our contacts in Infinite Campus right now. Any touch point we have with a student, staff, family, or crisis intervention, we document that into Infinite Campus so we can run an export and have the total number of touch points by our school social workers, our schooling services coordinators, or our community-based organizations also enter into Infinite Campus. And so this is the total number of touch points from August until now. And I'm going to have Brenda report out a little bit on Care Solace.
So this year we entered a partnership with Care Solace to fill the gap for those families that have private insurance and/or Kaiser and help them get connected with mental health services quickly. So this is a snapshot of the data reflecting when we started our partnership in September. So communications saved in Franklin-McKinley terms, and what we would refer to that are touch points. So 1,830 touch points is the work that Care Solace has done in terms of doing outreach to Kaiser, to private providers, to families, helping connect our families with those much needed supports. We were able also to do 59 warm handoffs. So that is a referral directly from the school social worker and school service specialist to the organization Care Solace, and 18 of those appointments were able to be connected to care.
Thank you. And that's it. I wanted to recognize Hillary Lopez. She was with us for a very short time, just a few months, but she came to us from having spent time out of the country and newly married and here. And she was an asset to Franklin, but also to our entire team. And she really encouraged us to look through the lens of being culturally responsive in everything we did. And I wish that I had more time with her to really understand the depth of her commitment to working with students and bringing a diverse lens right to the work that we do. And so we keep her near to us in everything that we do, and we'll have a memorial coming up to celebrate her life. Questions?
Thank you, Jennifer. Board members, do we have any questions, comments? Oh, maybe Mona?
Thank you for sharing the updates, because that was the main one I wanted to kind of know in terms of what the initiatives were before and where we're going forward. The only other thing I was wondering was in terms of our wellness centers, how many do we have currently at our school site? How many school sites have a wellness center?
All but 2 have fully functioning or at least space designated. The other ones are actually in process of finding a classroom or space. And so we have like Lerone that's been established for going on, I think, 4 years now. And then we have some that are now finding space for a wellness center. And so we're modernizing, constructing as we go, in efforts to have every single school site have a dedicated space.
And then is that funding, the funding for the wellness centers, is that primarily coming through grants, or is it just?
We found various pots of money.
Most of it is internal from our facilities funds and those kinds of things. We did get some funds from the county, but those are mainly for small things, and the funding really was for the staff. They've committed to the Zenden liaison and the therapist to those two centers for the next 3 years is what the funding of that grant will cover.
Do we have an estimate on how much this, like the investment to help us?
I'm sure we can get that information in terms of, in some cases, some of it is the work that our staff did to sort of just create the private spaces in some of our spaces, but more of it is on the furniture side and the things that we're buying to make those spaces something that the kids would want to utilize. So we will get that information.
Thank you.
The principals also have a shared investment at our sites about supporting supplies or anything that they would need for sensory stations and that kind of thing. So it's really a shared investment with our outside stakeholders and partners as well as internally.
I think from an equity standpoint, it would be nice to know, though, from the district perspective, what our responsibility would be if, if we wanted to continue to make this a priority. Thank you.
Yeah, the biggest thing for us is getting the larger costs, which are the furniture and those kinds of things. The principals are really trying to, supplement with the manipulates and things like that more than anything. But, our commitment is for the actual space and the things that make up the wellness center. And then we want to make sure that all the schools have sort of that starting point.
Thank you, Mimona. Board members, any other questions, comments? Well, thank you so much for the informative presentation, Jennifer. Well, actually, I did have one more question. Knowing that kids are now back in the classrooms and, the shift from going to distance learning back to learning in person, an uptick of referrals probably is what's happening right now. Is it an abundance of upticks that are putting a lot of stress on your department right now, or do you see that as something that you can handle, or is it something that's just a little bit out of your control, or how do you feel? Is my question.
How do I feel? Which number am I? Thank you for the question. I think that, yes, we have an increase in referrals, right, as expected. And we're really grateful we do, because that means there's more eyes on kids, right? And more people reporting if they see a student in distress or needing help. And so with the expansion of our school social workers, having one per site, it has taken the load off of when we had like 4 per district, right, that we had to respond. And so having the 1 per site, also having our partners, also having schooling services coordinators, it's a shared responsibility. And so, yes, there's more, which we, again, want more eyes on kids and we want to get them the support. However, with the expansion of social workers, it's made it more manageable to be able to share, right, the responsibility with SLS, with UAP, and with our community partners to be able to get them the help they need.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, thank you so much for the.
Yeah, I think the goal is to not be in a response mode. And so with the work that the social workers are doing with some of the early intervention prevention, the goal of having, sort of these wellness spaces, the wellness centers that potentially can shift that for a more of a preventative standpoint and not a response standpoint is really the goal that we want to, reach. There's always going to be a response. There's always going to be students that need additional support in crisis intervention. But right now, I think we're just feeling like we are, reacting to, responding to.
Sounds very good. Well, thank you so much for the presentation, Jennifer.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so that was also a presentation for informational purposes only. So we will move on to item 5.03, the Communication Hills updates. Jason?
So those are great presentations. Ours is not as flashy, but we will provide you an update on Communications Hill.
That was added to the.
Yes, this presentation was added late. Sorry for not getting it to you beforehand. We'll also have some handouts for you tonight, but if you could just focus on what we're saying and a couple of the slides that we'll present tonight to give you an update, and then we'll have handouts for you at the end of the presentation. Good evening, board members. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to give you a Communications Hill update. At a very high level, district staff and consultants have been working very hard to continue to push the Communications Hill project forward. We're happy to report that we're moving into the DTSC phase of this project, which is a great milestone. We also forwarded the letter of intent to Mr. Betancourt, the landowner, as well as his lawyer, Chuck Reed, and the developer, KB Homes. And we are anxiously waiting for a formal reply from the 3 members that are participating in this deal that will ultimately give land to the district so that we can build the school. Didier Biquet, who helped us draft and send the letter of intent to Mr. Betancourt, is checking in with Chuck Reed on a bi-monthly basis every 2 weeks to see if there's a chance of receiving a formal reply. We sent the letter back in September of 2021. We have not gotten a formal reply yet, but Chuck Reed has said that the landowner and developer are excited and optimistic that this project will go through. The landowner and KB Home will be participating in the DTSC phase of this project. Obviously, we're not the landowner, so they need to be part of this discussion to make sure that they make improvements on the land that fit DTSC's requirements for a school site. So we have a vested interest, so we'll be at that meeting as well. And hopefully during that meeting, maybe before or after, we'll get additional information from the landowner directly in terms of timing on when we're going to receive a response to our letter of intent. Before I turn the mic over to John Dominguez from School Site Solutions and Mark Finney from Supermurray Finney Architects, please note the timelines that is included in the presentation tonight. I'm not going to go through every single line of the timeline that's presented here tonight. You can go through that at your leisure, but I would like to point out some highlights and things that have happened in the recent years leading up to now. In June of 2018, the district awarded the architectural services to SFA for all of our bond projects. We'll be using bond funds to help fund this project of building a school on Communications Hill. In September of 2018, we updated our demographic study to figure out, one, how many students we could expect in future years within our district, as well as a focus on students that will be generated on Communications Hill. In November of 2019, we contracted with School Site Solutions, who's going to help us through the CEQA portion of this project, as well as the CDE approval of the site, so that we can ensure that the district can receive state matching funds in the future. Over the next few months, we did a lot of different surveys to make sure that it is feasible for us to build a school on this site. In April of 2021, the board passed a resolution declaring its intent to acquire the land for Communications Hill from the owner and build a school on Communications Hill. From May to July of 2021, we met with the CDE again to get more information on the site review process, make sure that we're able to receive state matching funds at the end of this project. In September of 2021, as I mentioned earlier, we finalized the letter of intent and sent that to the landowner, Mr. Betancourt, KB Homes, the developer, and Chuck Reed, the lawyer for Mr. Betancourt, and are anxiously awaiting a reply. I will now turn the mic over to John Dominguez, who will talk more about the DTSC project and the CEQA phase and future steps that we need to complete as a district before we take ownership of the land on Communications Hill.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Cruz. I'm pleased to be here tonight. I've been working on this project since the days of Leon Glasser. That's quite some time. We've been with the Franklin-McKinley School District for a while now. I'm working on a variety of projects. And this one, I remember going up to the Communication Hill site years and years ago, right after, maybe a couple of years after we worked with the district on the Ramblewood property, getting that property. To update you on this project, I'd like to start off with some milestones and talk about some of the action items and critical path items that we've achieved moving forward. On July 16th of 2021, I believe it was, we met in a virtual meeting with Mr. John Gordon, who's the Assistant Director of the School Facilities Planning Division, and Brian Boyd, who is your field consultant from the State Department of Education out here. And we had to get them involved in
in the project because they were not going to approve the project in its preliminary stages on what the state calls a initial school site evaluation. And that evaluation is the evaluation that a school district, when they want to get a piece of land, they will get the CDE's approval, pre-approval. So it allows them, the school district, the LEA, to move forward with all the necessary studies that's required for a CDE approval and for funding under the school facilities program. So the issue was, as you know, a FERC line, which is an electrical line that's a federally regulated line. And at the time, we did a number of studies on this line. Prior to years ago, we had an electrical engineer and a electrical engineer consultant run an algorithm in a risk assessment for that line to see what it was emanating at and what the milligauss readings were. And we found that standing in front of our computer or sitting in front of your TV, read higher milligauss that was emanating from that line. But the state has a different standard. And so we went back and we kept, looking at this issue with the FERC line. And with the help of Mr. Finney and other people that were involved in this, we were able to come up with a plan which is in your handout, that moved the power line. Is it in there? There we go. That moved that power line more, if you look at this, more to the left, and that utility easement, which allowed enough space to develop a fence line because they were requesting a certain setback because of the reading on that FERC line. And the issue really wasn't the reading, it was the fact that you cannot have a power line of a certain kV across to a school site. So we were able to move that line. I got an agreement. If we move the line, this was the presumption that if we move the line, and we got agreement from the developer that they would be willing, the state would be willing to approve the site for all of the special studies that needed to move forward. And so that's what we came away with. So we came away with an agreement from Mr. Betancourt and KB Homes that this would be the optimum to be able to move forward with the approval for the school site. So on July 26th, or thereafter, the CDE issued a CDE approval, which is a preliminary approval. It's not an approval for the site by any means, but it's a preliminary approval that allows the Franklin-McKinley School District to move forward with their special studies to seek a CDE, Department of Toxic Substance Control approval for the Communication Hill site. So that is a milestone. That took a very long time, took a lot of negotiation. And so we were able to get through that piece. We also have completed another important milestone, which is the DTSE determination. And I say we have completed it. What we've done so far is we've contracted with McCloskey and Associates. And Tom McCloskey is the geologist that will be working on the site to clear it through the Department of Toxic Substance Control. We've also district has also entered an oversight agreement, the schools cleanup agreement with the Department of Toxic Substance Control. On January 31st of this year, we are going to, which is in a couple of days, we're going to have a scoping meeting on the preliminary environmental site assessment. Now, let me explain a little bit about that. Because the site has so much characterization, talking about soil characterization for any type of naturally occurring asbestos or any type of potential areas of concern. We negotiated with the DTSC that we could, because of the amount of information that we have on the site environmentally, that we really don't need to go out and do a whole bunch of or do a lot of soil samples. We know what's there. So they allows, when that happens, that type of a process, I've been involved in it many times, they allow the LEA to do something called a PEA equivalent. So the PEA equivalent is what we're going to be entering and discussing at the scoping meeting on the 31st. And that we are advocating for is to tell the DTSC that, look, this thing, we've had plenty of characterization on this. There's been soil samples after soil samples after soil samples taken. We know what the site is telling us. So let's wrap all of that information up into the PEA, okay, into a PEA document, not have to take any more samples because the site has remained the same for a long time. And we will run that through the public hearing process. And if the DTSC wants us to do more, then we would jump straight into what's called a supplemental site investigation. And therefore, then we would have our public hearing on the SSI, on the supplemental site investigation, and any removal action then would come as a result of that SSI. So we know that there is naturally occurring asbestos on Communication Hill. And so we know that there's going to need to be a cap. That is the mitigation measure that we are looking at. We are very, very well aware of what's happening on the site environmentally. And so the preparation of the PEA equivalent would take about 6 to 7 months to complete. And then the supplemental site investigation, if necessary, is going to take an additional 3 to 4 months. Each of those processes take a scope and require scoping meetings. So right there, we're 10 months to 11 months of due diligence, just from the DTSC standpoint. Within that, we would have our public participation and our public hearings, which would be held at a regular scheduled board meeting. And then if there is the requirement, which there will be a requirement for the raw, that takes another section of time to prepare. And McCloskey and Associates would have the challenge of preparing the raw, which describes what the removal action is, how it's going to take place, where are you going to take all the spoils if there is an off haul, what's the depth of the cap that you're going to be putting on. And all of that gets wrapped up into a document, and then it gets circulated as part of a public hearing. Along with that process, then I get to have all that information and I wrap it up into the CEQA document. So quite frankly, you're having, a kind of a double whammy of information that the public is going to get, because I'm going to put that in our CEQA document. That'll be circulated along with the DTSC's information. So the public has a very, very, very good transparency. We will have a very good transparency of what's in those documents. And unfortunately, when we do have the public hearings, we don't get a lot of people that come out to the public hearings on these types of issues, and nor do we get comments back very often. So then once we get all that wrapped up, we would then submit that to the Department of Education for site approval. And that process would take about a 3-month review. By statute, they have 30 days, but they're because of this slowdown and such, they're taking a little longer to get site approvals completed at the state. While this is happening, we're also would be necessary to begin the educational specification development and also prepare a physical education site size justification study. Those will be 2 items that'll be required for the site approval piece. And then one of the things that's going to need to happen to get that, once we get the ed specs completed and also the site size justification, you would need to engage your architect and commence your preliminary, design development documents. So that kind of gives you a rundown of what this would look like. So quite frankly, if we're looking at the site approval piece of it, we're about I would say at this point, and if Mr. Betancourt cooperates, we would be probably a year to 14 months out for an approval to be able to move things forward to the Department of Education. The biggest thing and the biggest challenge that I see we have right now, and that is the mitigation agreement and getting Mr. Betancourt to provide the deed for the land to the school district. We need to get the land in order to move forward. And so we will be able to, we'll know more what happens after our scoping meeting on the 31st. He wants to be involved in all the different meetings that we're having. So certainly we will come back and report to the board, hopefully a favorable negotiation with him. Questions?
Rudy?
So I'm looking at the process and the timeline. So we're looking at 2 years before we even start getting a design started.
Well, if on the 31st, there's a favorable approach to this, and you can and we can get a mitigation agreement, you know, an approval on the letter of intent for the purchase of the land or for the donation or whatever this is going to be, we can start it in February, March.
Okay.
But yeah, so
we still have some things going concurrently that we will need to go through the CDE and
that's correct.
So forth at the same time, but we can actually, they've given us a preliminary approval, right?
Yeah, I would like, you know, in a perfect world, I like to submit the site plans, the design plans, and the site approval all at the same time. So it is feasible that, you know, you could almost make that timeline.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So the obstacle, Rudy, is that I can't, you build a building from the ground up. I don't have a survey. I'm a final land layout. If that agreement happens and then they grade it to the way it's supposed, that it shows here, whereas, you know, this sort of flat area, then I have a survey, then I could actually design the school. Okay. Because I can't, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so Mark, or either one, so we talked about, I mean, we have challenges with finances getting to build a building. There's some challenges. So I think we talked about, because of the need is so great on Communications Hill for a school site to even consider putting some portables to start and to phase in different phases. Is that being discussed as well with you, Mark, and how is that working into this whole process?
In fact, Rudy, we actually showed a potential phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
Right. Phase 1 looks like buildings, doesn't look like
Right.
portables.
And in the past, many developers have done that, where they build the most significant, you know, K or pre-K through 3rd grade first. And then 3 years or 4 years later, they build the 4th and 5th grade. You know what I mean? So,
But you have buildings there, you don't have portables. So are we not considering portables at all? Is that out of the question?
It'd be ideal if we could do a stick build and not use portables.
Right. Did we not? So we're not even, just portables aren't even in the discussion at all then?
Right now, no, but I mean,
Okay.
we can definitely revisit that if need be.
Yeah, I have my opinions on it. I just want to make sure that I'm clear on this update is about what's coming from you guys, not my opinion.
Yeah, and the issue with portables is that dependent upon what the program is, you know, we go in for new construction dollars, portable classrooms. The Office of Public School Construction doesn't consider them as permanent. And so we'd have to certify to the Division of the State Architect and the OPSC, Office of Public School Construction, that those would be going away someday.
Of course, there's a process that we need to follow, and
Yes, sir.
I completely understand. I don't know everything.
Yeah.
You know more than I do about it, but I completely understand there is a process. But that was one of the options that the board threw out.
Sure.
To be considered, and I just wanted to hear some feedback on where we are on that.
Yeah.
And I do understand the ideal situations to put buildings and do it in the phase level, which is Mark, I trust you on that, and I know, you've done a lot of work in our district, and and I completely understand what's going on there. I do know that there is, I don't know how many public will show up at a public hearing for this, but I know that the Communications Hill has needed a school for a long, ever since it was established.
Yeah.
And back when it was established with the developers, there was an agreement that they would provide land for a school. So it looks like, they're probably going to, give us the deed to build the school, because that agreement was when they got approval for developing that land, that they would have an area for a school and a park.
Yeah.
In that area. So other than that, I mean, I see the odds are very good that we're going to get that land unless another school district comes in and, and takes it from us. But I don't see that happening at this time because the district lines are already made for FMSD in that area. Am I correct in thinking that?
You are. And I would venture to say that, in our discussion with Mr. Betancourt, we want to point those items out. And in addition to that, I want to tell them that the Department of Education has bought off on the location of the electrical line, and that in order for us to get started, we need to get the survey completed.
I think he's aware of it very much because his attorney, Chuck Reed, was mayor when that occurred.
Okay.
So I don't know if, I don't think his attorney would be holding that back from him because he was very supportive. And he was a huge advocate once the development started to have a school built there. And it is our district. So there's no reason why that it shouldn't happen, in my opinion, right?
Right. Let me just clarify the one thing. I don't think the deed is not the issue, or the land, acquiring the land. The agreement has been that we were trying to get us the moving of the lines, and then with the landowner in KB, then who pays for that?
Right. That wasn't my question, but I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, Juan, and I know that is an issue as well, the mitigation of the power line as well. And I understand, and thank you, John, for clarifying that the hazard waves or whatever coming off of that is less than a computer or a television.
Well, that's what the science says, and I believe that. So,
but the state thinks differently. So
yeah,
that's understandable. And last thing I want to mention is that when this whole process started, when the district was starting to look at building the school up there, there were children living there because they had just started the development back in 2006 or 7.
Yeah.
And now those children are graduating from high school and starting college. I hope that we don't wait this long again, because we have children there that and we have parents that don't have the ability to get their children down, to our schools here, Chiricahua, Franklin, or wherever they go to, or another charter school. And I know that there are other districts that are recruiting our students away to their districts, like our neighboring school district there. So I hope that we can work as diligently and as efficiently as possible to make this happen. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Well,
thank you very much for the presentation. I do have a couple of technical questions. With regard to McCloskey, what is their relationship with the district?
They're the environmental consultant that's doing the preliminary environmental site assessment and SSI.
It's my understanding that they work very closely with KB. What kind of fiduciary duty do they have to us to be straight with what we're doing?
Yeah, I don't know the relationship that well, what McCloskey and Associates do with KB Homes. I can certainly ask them to, identify what that relationship is and let them know that there was a question here. Yeah, absolutely.
So I can tell you from personal experience, I live there.
Okay.
And I have dealt for many years with KB, and I can tell you that McCloskey right now is supporting the developer with regards to putting out information regarding the asbestos that you raised on behalf of the developer. So the developer is kind of engaged right now with a lot of negative information or a lot of negative publicity around that issue.
Okay.
Between them and the city, and McCloskey is the one who's assisting the developer kind of on that issue. So I'm kind of concerned that if we're going to be using any kind of assistance from this entity, that they have our best interests in mind as well.
Sure, understandable, yeah.
But it appears that we've been working with them since at least 2021.
You've been working with McCloskey and Associates since 2006 when they did Ramblewood.
And so they're doing the same kind of like soil testings here at this particular site.
That's correct. They did, so they did the Ramblewood site, and they also did the Voices Academy.
So I mean, I can tell you just from personal experience that because this is a city development, that the city has a wealth of information from McCloskey and from KB on the very issues that we're talking about. So in terms of those kind of toxins, that's something that they've been kind of dealing with on behalf of the developer for many years now.
Right, and that's the whole essence of the, I understand that concern. And that also, though, is the essence of asking them to do a PEA equivalent because of the amount of information we have characterizing that site.
I think I heard you say that asbestos is known to be on the site. Are there any other toxins that you're aware of that are on that site?
I'm not, yeah, that's the only toxin I know that I'm aware of is the NOA.
Got it.
There wasn't a ban. I think there's some reports of abandoned mercury mine as well, right?
Yes, there is that. However, I don't believe there is a concern with any type of an area concern or any type of a compound with mercury. I do know that there will be a requirement to make sure that the abandoned mines are stable when they begin the school construction.
So there were concerns raised about the exposed mercury about a year ago by the residents to the city of San Jose and to another regulatory agency. I believe it was somebody that's regulating the water because they were concerned about the leakage into the water, into the soil. So I would just recommend that you probably look into that.
Oh, there's no question. There's no question it'll get looked into. Right. That's the whole purpose of the scoping meeting. So at the scoping meeting, we take those documents. Mr. McCloskey will take those documents. We meet with the Department of Toxic Substance Control, and they will then tell us, we'll show them what the characterization of the site is. And they will then say, well, this is what you need to do to clean up the site. And if you want, and the other thing is if there is a question, they'll ask us to do step out samples to make sure, and confirmation samples to make sure that whatever it is that concern is, that it's either going to be cleaned up or it's not there.
And McCloskey hasn't informed us of this.
I'm sorry?
McCloskey hasn't informed your team of those issues.
I don't have the raw or the PEA equivalent yet, because I'm not at that point in terms of collecting that information to put into the CEQA document. We need to have the scoping meeting first.
Because I'm pretty sure that the firm is well aware of because they've been speaking on behalf of the developer on these issues.
Yeah, in my mind, there's no question that they understand what the full characterization of the site is.
And they'll share that with us.
Sure, I will share that with you guys.
Does the CDE have any concerns about the toxins?
That's why we're doing this. It's part of education code.
Well, so the DTSC was created about 15 years ago when LA built an entire, can you hear me? It built an entire high school on a toxic site.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to close the high school down, open it up as a mall or something else. But,
still working.
so the DTSC was created because there was no regulatory way of making sure this didn't happen in the state. So what John's saying is the DTSC is going to read the reports, do their investigation, and tell us sort of what we have to do to make it safe for the kids and the teachers and everybody else. And one of the early solutions is to completely cover the site with imported dirt.
Clean imported dirt.
Sorry, clean imported dirt. And that's one of the easiest solutions to do. And that's how Ramblewood was done, by the way, because Ramblewood was not on the cleanest site at that time. Is my understanding. I didn't do that school. But.
Well, Ramblewood was a different entity, and and Mark is accurate in the sense that it did have some serpentine deposits, but that was only the second DTSC cleanup in the state at the time. I've been doing this for 25 years. My prior job, before I left the education and as a teacher and as an administrator, I went to the Department of Education and I was a field consultant at the Department of Education and what John Gordon does, who is now the director. So your question is a good question about whether or not the CDE is concerned about soils, and CDE's job is safety for kids. And the DTSC will ensure that safety. And that's all the information we get from traffic studies to DTSC information, anything that has to do with safety for students, that all gets wrapped up and it gets reviewed by the California Department of Education. And that's who will issue the site approval for your project.
And I want to be very clear. I'm 100%, like I said, I live there. I would love,
I get it.
I would be over the moon. I want a school there.
Sure.
But I also want to make sure that Mr. Betancourt and his crew doesn't stick us with the requirement to fix that, right? I mean, in terms of the mitigation,
yeah,
in terms of what he owes under development fees and or any kind of consideration coming back to the district.
Yes.
That is something that is 100% worked out before we get stuck holding kind of that ridiculous bag of, having to clean up something of that magnitude.
Mr. Martinez, I share your concern. And I'll have to tell you that concern was one that way back in 2010, probably, was when I had Jeanette Justice, who is she's a consultant that specializes in land acquisition mitigation agreements, come to meetings. And that same concern was what we wanted to ensure that the district's not going to get stuck with a bill or get it taken out of the construction cost of some sort. You're going to they will pay their fair share. And that's the whole point of doing all this due diligence, is to do all of this characterization now so we know what we're dealing with, and they're on the hook to do the mitigation agreement or to mitigate that site properly because of the agreement that this was supposed to be donated to the school. That's why we're here. That's why I'm here. And that's what my challenge is.
Yeah, and so one of the things that early on when I first got here was to work with KB and Mr. Bencourt in defining what was meant by delivering a clean, buildable site. And so I remember our first meeting with Mark and the team and KB and Mr. Bencourt was to really define that and what it meant, knowing that we needed to cap that and we needed to do all these things. And so the work that we started then is now the culmination of saying, we understand what it means of what we need as a school district to build a school and that we can actually get it approved. And so that's sort of the work that we now have issued a letter to them saying, this is our understanding of what we need assurances on before we actually take possession of the land. Our goal was always, we will not take the land, we will not accept the land unless we have that clearly defined so that we know that we're not going to be stuck with a piece of land that maybe we can't build a school on. And so that's sort of the process that we've been going through. And so we're sort of that final step in getting those assurances from KB and Mr. Bencourt to say, yes, we can now start to transfer the deed of the land to the district and then trigger the other things that has been mentioned today.
That I think we're all on the same page with that. That is also critical. The last thing I wanted to mention was once we get the land, and I can just tell you because I've been living on the hill there since 2010 myself, in 2 different places. KB has agitated the dirt in such a way that the city has gotten involved. They've been fined and or penalized by the AQMD based on their construction.
Because of the dust?
Because of the dust.
Yeah.
Right. And so they've already completed phase 1. I live in phase 1. They are now in the process of completing phase 2. They have plans for phases 3 and 4, which are different phases than what you're describing in your documents.
Right.
They're talking about the estimated, remaining units that they're going to put up there and finish off the remainder of their building. Once we acquire the land, I would like to see some assurances that KB is not going to continue to agitate that in such a way that once we're there and we have some presence there, that our staff, our students are being impacted by that. And I'll tell you why is because with regards to KB's own employees and as to the residents, there seems to be a lapse going on for at least the last 4 years, which has required them to take extra precautions in measuring those levels of asbestos in a way that is public.
Sure. Understood. You're talking about a situation that occurred in El Dorado County with the El Dorado Hills Unified School District with naturally occurring asbestos. Very, very similar, very same type of situation. I can tell you, as far as the school site is concerned, once we get the title of the land, the DTSC is going to tell the district that you need to secure that property. So what does that mean? Well, you post it, no trespassing, you post it, fencing, however it goes. When the kids are there and there's construction that's happening in the surrounding area, that's another thing that they're going to require for dust and air monitoring. That will be in the raw. That'll be in the removal action work plan. That any other work is going to be the responsibility of the developer to make sure that dust mitigation is controlled, that the dust is not going to be above the human health thresholds that can cause, mesothelioma or any other type of a disease. So that's all going to be part of this preliminary meeting. We'll have that discussion. I will raise that concern with the DTSC to make sure that they're aware that it's not fully built out and that there's a concern by the board that there needs to be dust control measures taken during construction of the homes up there also, once we get the site.
And Sam Young at the city has been, the point person. He's listed there. He's the one that has heard a lot of it. The plan itself in terms of the dust mitigation has been in place, I want to say, since at least the 90s.
Yeah.
It's not an issue of having a plan. It's an issue of them following it.
Sure.
But I do absolutely, like I said, over the moon, want it there. And I'm glad to hear that we're at least monitoring these things, but I feel very strongly about saying this going into this deal that, once we get into that deal, we're kind of left on our own. This is the time to really make sure that we get those assurances.
Understood. So I'll pass the message on to Mr. McCloskey and ask him for the next presentation, Jason, if it's okay to have him come in and talk about the DTSC process. I can do that, but I'm not the surgeon. I'm just the doctor. He can talk to that. Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions, Rudy? Oh, no. Well, thank you so much, John.
Thank you very much,
Mark. Okay, moving on to 5. Information only, okay. Moving on to 5.04, approval of 2021-2022 school accountability report cards for FMSD schools. Amy?
Thank you. Good evening, board. Tonight I'm bringing forward required to memo. And so all the report cards are helpful for the basic services of their fees, local and state data. I did want to note their SARCs. CD it was we were delayed in pushing the data through into was statewide, so it was however, the guidance that we received was to go ahead and move forward with federal deadline of February 1st, even though all the data wouldn't be available because that is a federal mandate and we couldn't change the deadline. So you'll see, I believe it's on page 4, the teacher criteria and percentages for our district is missing. However, we're assured by the CDE that they're working on it and then they will update us as soon as it's available so that we can our SARCs. And then in addition, as I did a presentation earlier this year, we did not administer the CASP. So that those pages in the SARC will not have data from this last school year because we selected a local indicator. And so we have a separate amendment in our SARCs that do break down the demographic data and the score reports. The error on that report is that DTS noted it as iReady, our Star Renaissance. So I updated them on that mistake and asked them to resubmit the PDFs. So basically, your approval tonight is just to confirm that yes, we want to provide a report card. The change on the local data will be made. I will submit the SARCs as written on time minus the teacher information, and then I will resubmit the SARCs as soon as the CDE pushes them through. So that's just an update. It's a little more complex this year than.
Thank you. Board members, do you have any questions for Amy? Joanna?
Just to clarify, the iReady data is not accurate, or that's the local data, or it's been labeled incorrectly?
The label's not accurate, but the data is accurate. Thank you for asking that. Okay. So it should not say that.
And then all of these plans will come back to the board once
Doesn't
they're
need to
amended?
come back to the board. The board just basically says that yes, we want to submit SARC for the public to be able to review. I'm happy to share, updated copies when that comes through so that you. It is also, we're required to post it on our website. Hard copies, community or family member that asks for it, so it will be current and accurate.
I just want to make sure for transparency purposes that once we are provided the, once we have the data, that it's shared with everyone in a complete.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. The way that it works is that we actually submit it to the CDE. They have a SARC online website that families can type in schools, so they'll have the most.
And just to, I think, or further, I think transparency, what we will do is let the public know that they've now been updated once it's fully updated, and just to make sure that even though it doesn't come back to the board, so that they know that it is now up on our website and on the CDE website for anybody to review.
And then in terms of for our purposes, our staff, our district, how are we taking any steps as a result of these report cards being, put together? I mean, like in terms of some of the areas, right, that have been flagged more obviously now, whether it be, academic data or the condition of facilities, like what's our next steps with that?
Well, that data is all in the stuff you're asking.
I more mean like the information that's in these report cards, right? It's kind of like a snapshot of each school and the areas that, we're doing well with, or areas that we need improvement. So what are the next steps for our district in terms of our staff? How are we making sure that we're kind of addressing the areas that are highlighted now?
Yeah, so I think if I understand your question is what if any follow-up is if there was some concern as a result of the data in the SARC. And what I would say is that this will be reviewed by the principals as part of the information that they need to gather in developing their SIPSA, that has where the obligation is in regards to responding and developing goals and actions for that. If it's a facilities issue, the actual fit is developed by the facilities team, and they would have already identified and start working on those items. But if you think that if you would like a different way of looking at, at least in the facilities point, we can certainly bring that back. But the fit is conducted by the facilities team on an annual basis, not by the site.
Yes, annually after each fit report is completed, we assign tasks to each of our maintenance members, or if we need to go to an outside contractor to complete the work, if something was identified as poor, then we would do that work as quickly as possible, based on, obviously, is it an immediate hazard or is it something that we can plan out a little bit further?
I know we typically have updates just in general on facilities. Is that something that would be included in that, or is this?
So we don't go to the level of detail of the fit, but we usually have updates when we talk about our bond measure in terms of facilities and what's kind of on our priority list of this project first, second, third. We usually have it at more of a higher level, but if you want more detail, then we can try to work on some type of additional supporting documentation.
I guess not necessarily detail, but just some reassurance that we know that these are, that these issues, whether it was from our team or not, that we have some issues that were identified and that they are being addressed. It's also that, our community and public also knows that we're addressing it, just so there's some follow-up loop as well, if possible.
Yeah, so I think if I understand, it's so that it's just not a report, right? That it is actually, if there is concerns identified in that there is an actual response to it, and otherwise it just becomes a report that is shelved and nothing comes out of it. Is that, am I?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for this? Okay. So it is an action item.
Yes, it is.
I move that we approve item 5.04, the approval of 2021-2022 school accountability report cards, SARC for FMSD schools.
Second.
There's been a motion for approval of the 2021-2022 school accountability report cards for FMSD schools and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that's unanimous. Moving on to consent items. I'm going to read this for consent items 6 and 7. Members of the public may address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items in accordance with board bylaws 9323. Individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. Is there any public comment on these items at this time?
There is no public comment.
Thank you. Seeing none, board members, I'll take a motion. Board members, do we have any items we would like to pull out of 6 and 7? If not, then I'll accept the motion I need.
Mr. President, I move that we accept consent items 6.01 through 6.06.
Second.
Consent items 6.01 through 6.06 have been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that's unanimous. Moving on to consent item 7. Over $25,000.
Move to approve items 7.01 and 7.02.
Second.
Consent items 7.01 and 7.02 have been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that's unanimous. Moving on to action items 8.01 personnel report. Board Vice President Rodriguez.
Mr. President, I move that the personnel report be approved as submitted and that the promotion for the following employee be approved. Kayan Ferranti, Executive Assistant Business, 2722. The employment for the following, also the employment for the following employees be approved. Richard Higginbotham, Custodian Hellier, 12422. Lucilla Hernandez, Guardian, Custodian Santee, 12522. Maria Pardo, Custodian, Stonegate, 2122, 2022. Irma Mendez Ceballos, bus driver, transportation, 2/7/2022. And that the resignation for the following employee be approved. Raquel Rios, paraeducator, SDC, Hellier, 1/27/2022.
Second.
Item 8.01 has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that's unanimous. Moving on to 8.02, January 11, 2022, board meeting minutes. Board members take a few minutes to review this and I'll accept the motion anytime.
Mr. President, I move that we approve item 8.02, January 11, 2022, board meeting minutes.
Second.
Item 8.02, January 11, 2022, board meeting minutes have been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Moving on to item 8.03, reporting on delegating authority to take the necessary action to protect students and staff from the spread of coronavirus. Superintendent Cruz.
Yes, thank you, Board President. The action that we took was that, and I believe you might have seen it in our staff bulletin. We took the position that we were going to extend the paid leave that was formerly called the SPSL, which expired in September. And so knowing that obviously with the surge, there was a lot of concern about staff, being out for an extended period of time and having to drain their paid leave. We took the steps to extend the leave as it was outlined in the SPSL, which allows for certificated staff to have 10 paid days to care for either a family member or for them to take care of themselves if they are identified as a positive, or for purposes of making sure that they get their vaccine. And so we're going to allow for that to be retroactive to when the other one expired. So any staff member that may have incurred loss of paid sick leave, we will restore that. And then that if those that did not use it, that carries over and may use that in addition to the Cal OSHA ETS paid leave as well. The Cal OSHA ETS is a little bit different, that it only extends for if the employee is positive and if it is deemed that it was work related. And so we will continue to offer that as well. Both of them are for certificated and classified employees. So those were steps that we took to support our staff during this difficult time. We have also taken the steps to order additional rapid tests in combination with our PCR test, that we would have rapid tests available for staff initially, and then now I'm told that we have enough of an inventory that we may be able to start using it for students as well. We have asked our provider to move to weekly testing of our students and staff, and so we are hopeful that they will have the capacity to do so. If that happens, then that will ease a lot of the workload right now in our contact tracing. Public health has indicated that if we have the ability to provide weekly testing for both students and staff, that the contact tracing would not be required, and that we would then deem anybody that was in a shared space, indoor space with a positive case would be deemed a close contact and just required to test that week. That would certainly ease the workload that is currently both at the sites and here at the district office, both in the business services and in HR, in identifying close contacts, notifying them, and trying to keep up with the changing decision tree about who's to be quarantined and who can come back and when can they come back and with what kind of test. it is quite the math problem. So, we're looking forward to the opportunity to not have to do that and just provide weekly testing for both students and staff. That's all I have to report. Any questions?
Juan, board members, do you have any questions for Juan? Emma?
I think the last time we spoke, we were locally using the 10-day isolation. And there was back a while, it feels like a lifetime ago, it was like a month ago, the CDC came out with 5 days or whatever, and you had mentioned that you were going to kind of maybe reevaluate that. We're still on the 10-day, right?
Yes, we decided to be more restrictive than public health and have anybody that is positive that they have to quarantine for 10 days. And only with a PCR test could they come back earlier. We know that that may not be possible. One, because the PCR is not the recommended test because it's so sensitive that in most cases they will still test positive. And then with the length of time that the PCR tests are coming back, it'd probably still be a 10-day. So we were getting a lot of concern raised about the effectiveness of the rapid test, and then also, who is observing that they're conducting it correctly, and so we don't have certified staff here to be able to administer the rapid test, and so we felt that it was easier and more that it provided greater safety for our students and staff to just stay with the 10-day and not create a situation where we are potentially bringing back somebody that may still be infectious too early. So yes, thank you for that, because that is a difference between our district and other districts and certainly other employers.
Any more questions? Well, thank you, Juan. Moving on to item 8.04, resolution number 2022-03, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Franklin-McKinley School District authorizing remote teleconference meetings of the board for the period of January 25th through February 24th, 2022. Juan?
Yeah, so we bring this forward, one, so that we are able to have the board study session remotely as planned. We will continue to bring this forward to give the district the flexibility if indeed it deems it necessary for us to conduct a board meeting virtually as we had done in the past. It doesn't mean that we have to. It just gives us the flexibility to do so if needed. If we don't have this resolution passed, then we don't have that option. So rather than have a special board meeting to then pass this to be able to go to a virtual meeting, we will bring this forward to keep that as an option for us.
Board members, do you have any questions on this? Rudy?
Just a real easy question. So that means through February 24th, if a board member wanted to participate virtually, they could?
Yes, and that helps with also not having to publish the address in which the board member will be participating and open the door of where they're at to the public.
Right.
So that's what this does. Yes.
Awesome.
Just one more clarification. This doesn't necessarily mean that we are planning to hold all virtual meetings at this point.
No, this again, it just the flexibility to be able to do that if we need to, but we did need it in order to for the board study session to be virtual.
Okay, thank you.
Would board members have to inform other board members that they will be attending virtually for the board meetings?
They would have to let me know, because then we have to be able to set them up for the Zoom link to participate, since the Zoom link is not a public link for them to participate virtually.
Got it.
At
Okay.
minimum, they would like to let myself know, and obviously I would let the board president know.
Yeah, I would like that for information to the board members that if you do want to attend virtually, you have the option to. Just let Superintendent Cruz know ahead of time. Okay.
I do have one question. With regards to public participation, I know that under the law, if we were to go this way, we would then have to be taking public comment electronically in real time and allow people to do that. Whether, I mean, if we're giving ourselves a flexibility, let's say hypothetically, we still come in, that means we're committing to allowing the public to make virtual comments, right?
That is correct. If we were to move to the virtual meetings once again, then the opportunity for public comment in that setting would have to be implemented once again.
Any other questions, board members? This is a resolution, so I'll take a motion anytime.
I move to adopt resolution number 2022-03, resolution to the Board of Trustees of Franklin-McKinley School District authorizing remote teleconference meetings of the board for the period of January 25th through February 24th, 2022.
Second.
Action item 8.04, resolution number 2022-03, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Franklin-McKinley School District authorizing remote teleconference meetings of the board for the period of January 25th through February 24th, 2022 has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that's unanimous. Moving on to item 9, communications from our Superintendent Cruz.
I have no other comments other than what I've already shared. Thank you.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Juan. We'll move on to item 10, communications from Board of Education, and 10.01, board member reports. We'll start with Maimona.
Just a quick update. I had the opportunity to attend the DEEP committee last week. It was a very productive 2-hour session. So we're making really good progress, and I'm looking forward to sharing a more extensive update with the board.
Great. Thank you so much, Maimona. Board Clerk Manuel? Or Vice President Rudy?
No report.
And I have no report as well. So we'll move on to 10.02, agenda item requests. Board members, at this time, do we have any agenda item requests? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 11, future business. We have none. Item 12, future meeting dates. You can read that at your leisure. Do we have, actually, Juan, do we have to include the board study session in here? Future meeting dates?
I mean, it's not a requirement, but it is published on the website, and it will be publicly noticed on Friday for the public with the information if they would like to join.
Okay.
Monday, yes.
Yeah, it was published on Friday for Monday attendance. Okay, sounds good. Item 13, closed session. We don't have a reason to go back to closed session, so I will leave it at item 14, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Adjournment has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. We are adjourned at